Hello everyone and welcome to what I consider to be a crucial conversation. We all are here gathered because we believe that blockchain can solve many of the world's problems. Today, we are posing the question and hoping to have an answer to it. Can blockchain help solve the social dilemma? Yes, the social dilemma, as in the recent documentary about Facebook and its social media conundrum, which amplifies the worst in humanity by hijacking our limbic system through what I call algorithmic tyranny. Can social media be cured with blockchain by fake news or cured of fake news, data harvesting, radicalization, conspiracies, and so on and so forth, and especially can the wicked problem of free speech in a fake news world in which many have been deplatformed and do not have a voice, can that paradox be solved? I have with me an amazing lineup of innovators and pioneers who have dedicated their efforts in the past years to solve and to address, of course, some of these problems. We have with us Sean Jensen, who is the founder of Profila, that is aiming to address the data harvesting problem through what he calls zero knowledge proofs. I will let him go into detail with that later on. We have with us Ankit Bhatia, who has deployed one of the first social media platforms on blockchain, Sapien Network. He is the co-founder and CEO of Sapien, and he has gone through several iterations with the technology in order to address the problems which I mentioned before. We have with us Sergio Mello, who is an expert in social media, being an advisor to Reddit. He is also an innovator and a crypto enthusiast, as well as a crypto leader, having been CEO of several companies in the domain. And we have with us Misha Benoliel, who is the advisor and co-founder of Nodal, which is redefining the internet with blockchain. Above all, ladies and gentlemen, I am the happiest to introduce and most honored to have with us famous journalist whose career spanned Forbes, The Independent, The Inquirer, Huffington Post, The Guardian, The Observer, Financial Times, and so on and so forth, and currently BBC, as well as a brush, and hopefully he is here to stay with the crypto world, for which he is working at Siena Networks, which is a privacy-first DeFi platform. We have Monty Manford as moderator of this amazing panel and difficult conversation. The mic goes to you, Monty, and together with my hopes that we'll have an answer at the end of this panel. Is tech or human nature responsible for the social dilemma?
Thank you, Matt, for an absolutely overly kind introduction, although I would add The Economist to that roster. That's the big one. The one that I love writing for the most because it's the hardest, and also the chief evangelist for the Siena Network, where we raised 11.2 million earlier this year, trying to prevent front running and privacy preserving platform. You know, so I don't really want to talk about that too much, but that's taken up my time most of this year, and obviously there's been no conferences. I've spoken at about 300 conferences recently. Kim Kardashian, John McAfee, Steve Wozniak a couple of times in Beirut and Vienna. Sir Tim Berners-Lee online a couple of months ago. Amazing people, and by the looks of it, I seem to have a panel of similar expertise, and I love the question. Can blockchain solve the social media dilemma? Because I would imagine that most of us on this panel believe that there is a problem. So I'm going to try and be as fair as possible and hand around the mic as much as I can metaphorically. And so when I was listening to the discussions, the first person I thought I would address would be Ankit, because you have allegedly created the first social media blockchain company. Now that's piqued my interest not only as a moderator and a presenter or as a journalist. Can you tell us a bit more about it and why you did it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, Mahela is being too kind as usual. I'm sure it wasn't the first blockchain social network. We had a lot of early experiments in the day where people were deploying smart contracts that allow people to post right onto the blockchain. So, definitely not the first. I do think that we're first with our sort of novel approach. And just a little bit of background about us. We began in 2018. My co-founder, Rob Giometti, and we were just frustrated with social media, right? It was a problem that we were seeing, and we'd have these like long conversations on hikes in the fire trails of Berkeley, California. And, one day enough was enough. We came down from our hike, we went to Free Speech Cafe out in Berkeley, and we just started writing some code. And we thought like, there's a better way to structure this, there's a better way we can do this, and we need to dig deeper. So at the time, we were thinking, hey, like maybe we need to go into the side of encryption. Monty is like, you're sort of investigating into the privacy side. We thought, hey, we'll encrypt everything, and that'll solve the problem. But it turned out people don't really care about that, right? People don't really care about their privacy, and they're looking for something that's new and different. And crypto, with all its new incentives and all the things that's being introduced with NFTs and ownership, really offers a new path forward. And that's what we're most excited about at Sapien. So one way to think about Sapien is that we're trying to build the digital bazaar of the future. This place that unifies dynamic social interactions with thriving commerce. And yeah, we're on our path to do that. We have a team of over 20 people, and yeah, we're just building. So that's a little bit about us.
So that's the formation, but what are you building? What are you? I mean, when I was talking to Tim Berners-Lee, call me Sir Tim, he said, he's producing solid because he's had enough of the World Wide Web. He sold his first World Wide Web code for 5.4 million. That's either a ridiculous amount of money or the biggest bargain of the century. And he set up Solid, and Solid is supposed to be a new iteration of a privacy internet. So I understand that, but I don't quite understand what you're making.
Yeah, so just to be a little bit more explicit, it's the sort of all-in-one platform, right, where people can come together, create content, find community, and thrive online. So our mission really is to empower these tribes to thrive and realize their true value. So it'd be similar to social experiences that we see on Discord and Reddit, but we want to really strengthen it with the power of the blockchain and the incentives that crypto introduces. So really just experimenting and pushing in a new direction there. And we have a sort of new release that's coming up, and that's one of the reasons I want to jump on. But we are in the process of launching the next version of the platform, which takes many years of just thinking about this problem and iterating with the tech. So.
Awesome. I'll check it out, actually. It sounds really interesting. I mean, you've also given me a great segue into Sergio, who's a Reddit advisor, and it's all his fault. He's the one, the whole person in the whole world that created the social media problem. What have you got to say for yourself, Sergio?
Well, I advise on how to fix it rather than how we got there. Yeah, first of all, everything I'm saying here, it's out of my own brain, and definitely I don't represent any of the big tech companies I've been working with. I think that we have to look at it at the fundamental level, and the problem with echo chambering and polarization is a human problem before being a tech problem. If we want to get down to a quick analysis of the way forward, we have to look at what happened. And what happened is that the speed at which technology evolved outpaced by several orders of magnitude the speed at which mankind and our way to relate to each other evolved. And so with this complete disparity between the tools we have and the way our brains work, we ended up in a situation that exacerbated the problems. So now, to make it again quick, of course, we're going to talk about this later more in detail, but when you have a problem where two items move at different speeds, you can either slow down the one that's gone too fast or accelerate the one has been lagging behind. And slowing down 6 billion people who are up to something is not that easy. So the only real solution here is to accelerate the pace of solutions. And big tech has a big problem, which is that once companies reach a certain size, they're clearly caught in a conundrum with their investors, their existing solutions, their value propositions. They can't just pivot and go and radically re-challenge their own fundamental assumptions for existence. So the solution is having newer platform, new innovation, new little companies. Obviously, crypto provides a fantastic fertile soil for all of this to try and disrupt in a good way. Not disrupt to kill big tech, but disrupt to offer alternatives to solve the real problems.
I was very early on in mobile, especially mobile games, and I was actually talking to the CMO of Cardano himself, who's an old friend from the mobile days, and we were talking about how the operators were actually accidental regulators of the content that we were putting on mobile. It was just serendipity that they had all the power and everything like that. And we were also talking about social media and what's happened to it. I mean, does everybody here use Facebook? I mean, I do. Do the rest of you? Hands up. Oh, there's only a couple of hands. Okay. Oh, there's three. Sean, let's get it over to you. Thank you, Sergio. We'll come back to you certainly.
No, I just wanted to say, actually, I think it's today like 70% of Americans who go and get their news from Facebook or Twitter. So it's that's one of the source of the problem, actually, because these are the places who accelerate basically the propagation of this fake news. And the issue is if you want to stop that, then you need education, and education takes time. So I just wanted to underline that.
No, well, actually, look, I've got a copy of the newspaper here. If I don't have a copy of the newspaper and ritualize doing the cryptic crossword and checking the sport and checking the news and obviously COVID, I think I would die if newspapers died. I was at a London publisher yesterday, and we kind of agreed that the best people in the world are the people who read newspapers and books. They are the elite. You know what I mean? The ones that listen to vinyl, the ones that don't. And so I believe it will continue, and I think it will always exist. And I'm not going to, shout the end of the world.
These are the people who actually don't get the fake news. So yes, you're totally correct, I think.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think it began with laziness, right? You're wrapped into a platform. I mean, I think a lot of people have left Twitter because of the mob mentality and the troll mentality, and I'm not so sure people get their news from Twitter anymore because it's so polarized. I certainly don't anyway, you know what I mean? I used to love Twitter. I used to thought it was a forum like this conversation to learn shit, you know what I mean? But I'm not sure it's that anymore. Sean, Misha interrupted you, but it was a good interruption. I'd like to dig into the detail of data harvesting and how you might think you might be able to solve this dilemma.
Fantastic. Thanks, Monty. So yeah, just quickly about Profiler. We've a research-driven company. We were actually part of Sir Berners-Lee's contract for the web. We were part of the working groups for privacy around government usage and corporate usage. And for the last 3 years, we've been doing research with universities, specifically students around the world, and very recently with the University of Madrid, the big data institute, around how do we solve this challenge, of data and the harvesting of data. And for Profiler itself, the approach that we have is, humans are pretty intelligent. So a lot of the rhetoric in the market is that, humans are dumb and we don't know how to make choices, but we think the opposite. So our approach to the strategy is human intelligence complemented by very strong technology. And what we've done, in supporting our strategy is really building out a platform that gives people choice. And that's where we see the power of the blockchain and technology that support it is when you've made a choice in the modern world, which is digital, how do you prove it? Okay, and for us, being able to prove it through the immutability of records, and in our case, we're very focused on the ad tech industry, and we have a Instagram type platform, which is a bit of Salesforce and Instagram mashed up, but with zero surveillance and great data, because the data that's in there is only from people. And every decision that you make, where it's how many ads I want to see or how many brands I want to share my data with, is all part of an immutable record, which only I can access, and also the brands who have a relationship with me can access. And then on my choice, regulators could access. So we're defaulting, Monty, to a new era of human first, technology strong complementing, but we also put a lot of responsibility back to people, because I think we've become apathetic and lazy. And somebody said earlier in the call, we don't care about privacy until we do. Okay, and that's our real approach to the challenge.
No, well, listen, that's what I do for a living for Sienna, right? But I think I'm probably going to make this a bit more generic, right? Because I know about your kind of, your individual capabilities and what you're doing. One of the things that I did recently is that I got in a 2008 VW Golf, and I just in that car. I went to the president of Slovakia's daughter's wedding in Bratislava, met my team somewhere unknown, drove through 12 countries, 6,000 kilometers, was involved in a hit and run, all types of stuff happened, right? One of the takeaways I got from it, and I think was what I'm about to ask, is our individual responsibilities. I'm English. I'm a writer. I know English, right? I speak Arabic badly, but I speak Arabic because I have to speak Arabic when I go to an Arabic country, as no one speaks English. On this trip, without realizing it, I wouldn't speak in English. I know English, French and German, but my French and my German got better because of this. It seemed to be like a kind of beautiful human movement away from kind of my head being in the screen and actually becoming better. You know what I mean? So, Misha, what I was going to ask you, I mean, what you're allegedly redefining the internet with blockchain. It's a great thing to do. But do you do that with is this a design problem? Can we fix social media by creating a social platform that's design is so beautiful that means that echo chambers, polarization, and obviously the overused word fake news, that we can actually cure this, Misha? Is this something we can do?
So I mean, it's a very good question, and I think there are many ways to answer to that question. I also think that there is not one solution and one avenue to solve that. First, because the current incumbents in the social networking space are so big that it's going to take time before someone arrives and replace one of these giants. So I think what's important is education, and that also takes time. Well, the major problem I see to be able to solve or attempt to solve this big problem of fake news is the pace at which you create fake news, especially with AI engines, or the pace at which you can spread fake news using bots. It's so high that as long as you don't have a tool or several tools that can actually create more proof to confirm that the news is not fake and that the source is actually valid source for the information. Before we don't create all these tools that enable any kind of news to be able to be gathering this proof, and there are different proofs that can be created with blockchain and different systems. So as long as we don't have tools that basically generate these at the same place as the fake news get generated, it's going to be very hard to actually beat the fake information. But I think there is hope. I think it's possible. And I actually encourage everyone who has an interest in fixing that problem to see how they can put energy or to work on solving that problem. I can give you, maybe I can share a little bit of my past experience dealing with actually free speech, because it's one of the important other aspects of what we are debating today. I was really confronted to that problem because one of my platforms in the past, I created an app where we were enabling people to share information freely when government tried to shut down access to the internet. And we actually saw that working successfully in many places around the globe. And we saw people adopting that platform and that tool to exchange information when governments wanted to stop access to information. And I saw the power it has and how it can actually make a difference and change things. And I think that's very inspiring, and it should keep on inspiring all of us, because if you build the right technology and the right tool, yes, you can fight censorship, you can enable free speech, and you can actually fight I'm quite sure we will have system to fight actually this fake news phenomena. Why blockchain is so important in fighting this is because with blockchain, as Sean mentioned, you can create immutable proof for many things. And I'm just going to maybe list some of the proof that you can create. You can create proof of identity, so you can verify the source of who is creating the information. You can create proof of location and time, which is very important if you want to prove actually when the content was generated or created. You can even prove the material that was used to generate that content. In the field I am now, because we build a network for actually, which is a decentralized wireless network to enable information to flow for things and IoT devices. We can use this network for example, creating what I call digital witness, who would certify when someone is shooting a video or taking a photo that actually that person, and without having to even reveal any private information, but at least attach a random identity to the content generated and prove that that content was generated at that time in that specific location.
And Misha, so doing that via smart contracts, is that what you're saying?
It's doing that through digital certificates that get basically recorded in the blockchain, so if immutable, and get associated to a random identity that's specifically generated and that is attached to the content that is generated in that given place at that given time. So what I just want to say and is all these things are possible, and it's going to depend how much effort actually, and how much energy and how much money that we all put at creating these tools that can enable potentially to fix or to reduce the amount of fake news in the future. And so I'm thrilled when you look at all the possibilities, what can be done. I think it's really, it has to be, there has to be a lot of education. So all the social media platform, through all the people who create content, can be aware of this tool, and actually it needs to come from them. It needs to come from them to ask for this tool and to have them to embed them and to use these services to certify the source of the information that gets displayed. And as long as these people don't do the work and basically of asking for these tools and don't show that they are willing to use these tools, then it's going to be very hard to get somewhere.
No, I see your point. I mean, I had some epiphanies on my journey across Europe. And one of them was about Twitter and about the trolls and all the bullshit that goes on there. And it was like, well, it's very difficult to be Twitter verified. There's a secret formula to get a Twitter verification. So they know how to verify someone. They try and create an elite of people who have the blue tick. Personally, I was delighted when I had a blue tick. And it all depends on the email that you set up your original Twitter account. If you write down Misha at the company you're working for, then you have a chance. But if you use something like Gmail, you will never get Twitter verified, right? That's how rubbish it is. But it does have the ability to KYC Twitter users because of the very verification tool that they have. So my question to you, Ankit, right, would be they can fix it. It is possible to fix it, but they don't give a shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a deeper problem, Monty, that you're referencing here, but I think the question comes down to who really has the authority to verify that someone is real online. And I know, Sean, you're doing some great work on Profala and identity, and I think that is a fundamental part to getting social right, but we run into a dead end, I think, if we basically rely on these platforms to decide who is that blue check mark, right? I don't think it should exist at that level. I think there's a different way. And going back to your previous question, when it comes to design, I think we really need to understand the problem, right? And I want to quote Daniel Schmutzenberger here because a problem well stated is half solved, right? And that really is the truth. And the difficulty here is that we're talking a lot about different components of blockchain that kind of fit together, whether it's identity or proofs or ZK snarks, and how I think we need to look at it from like a first principles level as to what is the right thing to design. And to understand that, we need to understand where we're falling short. So it's clearly, I think, and we at Sapient think, our thesis is that the business model itself of the attention economy is flawed. So until we don't provide an alternative that's viable, we're always going to be falling in the same trap where the incentives of the platform are just to maximize the eyeballs and views on any piece of content. So I think we'll fall in the same pitfalls again and again and again until we create something that's viable and offers a path forward. So, and this is one of the reasons, right? We got to start asking people, hey, like, what is worth paying for? Is it worth paying for content? Is it worth paying for community connection? Like, what would you pay for? Because online services should not be free. That was a sort of trap that we fell into that wasn't the original vision of the internet. And what we can do now instead, and the things that excite me the most, is that blockchain, in particular ownership on the blockchain, provides an alternative business model, right? Where we're seeing this, right? People purchasing hundreds of thousands of dollars of NFTs. Why? Well, because they want to be a part of something. They want to own something. They want to have provenance over something. And I think that is the future. And that's what we're trying to bring into consumer social. Because if we don't, we're going to just hit the same issues again and again.
No, it's a very good point. And in the conversations that I had confidentially with a UK publisher yesterday, is that one of the reasons they asked me in was, can you create an NFT creator community? I'm sure Sergio will know all about the growth of Reddit, and also as a crypto man. I'm going to ask you the question, Sergio, but I don't know if you've had this experience. When we launched our coin on decentralized exchanges, the amount of false people and bots that attacked us to bring down the website, to impersonate the administrators of the Telegram group. But Facebook and Twitter, we know about them. But Telegram is a cesspit of children and bots. You know what I mean? And I'll just take it to you.
You're being overly kind with your description of Telegram. It's also a Russian company, but yeah.
Misha, you've spoken a lot. You might have to wait a minute. I think you're a lovely man, but I need to give someone else a chance.
I can speak for Misha too.
Yeah, Sergio, speak for Misha, please. Go for it.
Okay, so as you said, I'm a crypto man. What does crypto mean? Cryptography. Okay, so the very fundamentals of modern asymmetric cryptography, the ones that allow us to issue basically digital signatures based on private and public key, are what powers blockchain. But without really dashing to the final product, which is blockchain, which is a distributed ledger, let's wait and understand exactly what a simple digital signature allows us to do. And that would already solve 80% of the problems you mentioned in the previous question, in my question. All the scammer, the impersonators on digital platforms like Telegram and WeChat and Twitter, all that could be easily solved with digital signatures. The only reason why that doesn't happen is because there has been a total lack of education to the modern, to the current generation about cryptography, and because platforms are not incentivized to be those educators. Education is boring. Education is detracting from engagement and eyeballs and convenience. Today's internet users want convenience before everything. So let's look at a little use case scenario. We all know the app Duolingo that is used for learning languages? It is very successful, and it's successful because they really found a good way, and they're not the only ones. There's Chinese, there's a ton of little apps that gamify the experience of learning. That's the only way really to break through with the basic components of a safe modern society and teach the new generation of internet users to adopt cryptography. Without digital signatures, the internet and the apps and digital communication will get worse and worse by the day. There's no way out. Absolutely. And it is, I agree, it is Twitter's responsibility, it is Facebook's responsibility to educate people, but they're just clearly deprioritizing it because it's not what the investors want to hear during the earning call.
Okay, absolutely. Misha, you're going to say something extraordinary. It better be extraordinary.
Now, I just wanted, Twitter, for example, 10% of the accounts are bots. I mean, they know that. So they let it basically work like that because they have an interest to actually let these bots operate on the platform. And that's
Can I jump in on incentive on what Sergio said, Monty, if I may? Because I think we're all technocrats and we believe fundamentally that technology can complement a solution. But somebody mentioned earlier about the incentives and business models. I think we underplay that too much because even the fake news story, fake news follows incentive of how many eyeballs am I going to get. In the ad tech world, which we're focusing on and giving an alternative, is they follow wherever the eyeballs are. So if the incentive for brands is to actually change the way they communicate with consumers is changed, that will change the market. And yes, zero knowledge proofs and being anonymous in when you want to be or sharing data responsibly when you want to with companies that you respect is a fundamental choice we should have, and people should be doing that in a better way. But I think we lack in the technology world focusing on how does our technology complement business model change and incentive change. I don't know what the panel thinks.
Can I add something? Sorry, Monty, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to add on. I do have some direct experience with other big tech companies. Let's not mention names, but not everything they've done is bad. There's research published by Facebook and others about which type of players on their platform are the big influencers of fake news and echo chambering. And it is not surprising that news accounts, news headlines, news issuers are the core of the problem. So one of the solutions that was proven to work is to do proper labeling. Now, how you do the labeling, whether it's centralized, decentralized, and everything, that's another story. But with proper labeling, you can absolutely dampen the explosion of fake news bubbles. So if we carry this learning from a centralized platform and bring it to a decentralized, idyllic future, then the solution is to have a long-standing reputation. And that's where it all connects, where you connect the dot of digital certificates and digital signatures, you connect the dot of blockchain, that is a permanent storage of decentralized information, and you connect the dot of a long-standing reputation. The problem with all these fake accounts on Twitter and Telegram that impersonate is that they have no accountability for what they're doing. If you do tie their ID, the unique private key proven identity, potentially also location and time proven identity with a long-standing reputation, then all of a sudden accounts without a reputation are powerless on the network, and only those who have proven through time that they're not spreading misinformation, that they're putting correct labeling on existing news and everything, then those are the accounts that are going to be reputable, and the algorithms can finally work and do their job, because algorithms today are in the dark, frankly, because they can only really be based on what attracts more eyeballs. And again, the incentives are not there.
But I think what we do with our Telegram groups, if we think someone's a bad actor, and it takes a lot of resource, is if we just give them a mathematical equation. What's 6 plus 5? And the bot can never answer it. It's our way of getting rid of bots. You know what I mean? Look, we are coming to the end, and I'm going to kind of try and close with a question about what you all think about blockchain. I'm a decentralized guy. I don't believe in decentralized governments, decentralized finance. I've just got divorced. I don't believe in centralized marriages anymore either. Ha ha ha. But the reason I got into this stuff, it was of the culture and the evangelism of decentralization. And I was actually much more interested in blockchain than I was crypto, because I thought, with smart contracts, you're getting rid of the middleman. And I researched this. I spoke at conferences about it. I did a lot of talking about blockchain for good, because I thought that was the sector, like sourcing diamonds, blood diamonds, lithium in, Congo. I thought there were some great movements there. I think IBM did some stuff with TradeLens. Would I be out of place to say that the use of blockchain to sort out social media has not been a priority for those involved in the blockchain world? I'll go round the table, but I'll go round the strange screen in front of me. Ankit, what do you think? Have we been remiss in not using blockchain to sort this out earlier?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it has been a priority at Sapien. That I can say. We are looking at from all different angles, and the bottom line is that it's really this new system. It's an entirely new way of operating, right? And it never existed before. We have the transparency, we have the signatures, we have the crypto and the incentives. We have all the tools there, sort of the primitives to build up again and what we think is better. So I think we need more companies thinking about how we better social structures, because honestly, it's one of the most important things. It's one of the most pressing issues of our generation. If we don't get this right, we're gonna fuck up the next several decades, so centuries. We might just end the species, right? It's almost borderline existential risk here. So what I really want to do is think about how we can try more experiments at the end of the day, because this is what blockchain has enabled so far. And I think it's just a start. I think we can take what we've learned from centralized platforms and build in this decentralized world, but really think about how we don't rely on centralized entities to verify, to combat bots, and instead make systems that are more emergent in nature and come up from the community level. And that's what we want to build.
Absolutely, and I agree with Ankit's comments there. But I think the thing that the tech market has missed a bit is, how do we give companies, who are stuck in this current system of doing things, a viable alternative? And it's not always just a tech replacement. So for us, the non-repeatability of my decisions that I make, in life, being on a blockchain is awesome. But how do I take recourse? How do I actually make a brand or a company stand up and pay attention to me? And that's where I think the human side needs to come in to complement, and that all is incentive based. If we're incentivized as humans to make the change because we love a product or a service, then brands need an alternative to be able to give me a much better private experience. And that is all possible on the fantastic blockchain that we have. But it's that balance, I think, that the market is missing, of strong tech, but let's make it more relevant to businesses so that they can still make money and keep us happy.
I'm getting a countdown here, Sean. You're a lovely man. I'm going to give the last word to Misha because he's so dying to speak. I'm going to go to Sergio first, and be fast. Have we been remiss in not sorting this out before? You can say yes or no if you like.
The ICO bubble and the speculation bubbles have unfortunately given a bad reputation to blockchains, and they attached it to token values. I think that was unfortunate, but at the same time, it did draw a lot of consumer attention. And blockchain is a technology. It needs system integrators. It needs a lot of hands and wrenches to actually be put into use. And so without the support of bottom-up support of large audiences, they wouldn't really go and solve real problems. So you need a bit of both, and it's going to be this always for the next decade. We're going to see tension between shilling and valuations and real value and the underlying technology. It's not going to be a simple answer, but there's going to be some interesting fights to watch.
I agree with you. Now, can we have a simple answer from you, Misha, before we close up?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short. I think the reason why there is this movement and this big wave with Web3 is just because there is a need to solve what happened during the Web 2.0 era. And what we see at a global level and the trends we see with actually communities taking the power more and more is showing the interest and the necessity to actually see these technologies of Web3, which is based mainly on decentralization, actually succeed at some point. So I don't know how long it is going to take, but I think the movement is already on, and that Web3 are bringing, and these technologies, blockchain is bringing the solutions actually to solve what we are experiencing and have been experiencing, unfortunately, in the last years to much great extent. Yeah.
You're optimistic. Let's end on an optimistic note. I am a pes-optimist, half and half. I think this has been a great discussion. I think the organisers are going to tell me off afterwards, but, so what? We're really intelligent people, and we've had a great conversation. Sean, Ankit, Misha, Sergio, thank you for your time, your intellect, and your insights. I think the audience is going to get a great deal from this conversation. I certainly have, and I'm going to be watching you to see what you do, because you're going to save the world. You're going to save social media, you're going to save news, and everybody is going to go back to reading newspapers, and the world will be a better place. Thank you very much for your time, and a round of applause from me. Thank you.
A round of applause for you, Monty. Thank you so much. So, wrapping up, I just want to tell our audience, we had limited time here, but I will have each of you, including you, Monty, on my upcoming podcast, Dreamcatchers, to talk in detail about your work and solutions. So definitely this conversation requires much more time. I just want to tell you just two of my takeaways from here, which give me hope as well, speaking of optimism. So, what we value, we have to pay for what we value. I think this is one thing which I'm taking from what Ankit is saying. Yes, incentivize me to pay for what I value. And if it's privacy, yes, definitely, I'd rather do that than be at the mercy of the bot and algorithm tyranny. Another very important one is education. Yes, books, and I have a lot of them, and that's why I'm not on Facebook. I do not have time for that. So education is crucial. Come back to the books and to the real source of knowledge. Thank you again. Thank you so much. I also wanted to let you know that we are working with Profila, with Sean, and they are awarded by our Catalyst program. So I would like to invite all of you to come closer to us. We are here to support such projects. Thank you again very much.